technical issues trying to solve this, so bear with us. Dabar kažkas, aš jūsų visien negirdžiu. O jūs manęs irgi negirdit nieko. Labą dieną, good afternoon. We are having some technical issues, so it would be good if you could text whether you hear me speaking. We're trying to figure out what is wrong. Hello, Omer. So, can you, okay, LCC sound works. So it's just our speaker, but we'll figure this out. Yes, sorry, we will just take some time to get Jonas to reconnect. We weren't sure whose sound is broken, whether it's mine or the speakers. Hello, Dovile. So please give us a few minutes as Jonas was trying to fix this. And thank you everyone for joining. Let's see if this will work. Okay, I think we still don't hear Jonas speaking.
Okay. Oh God, apologies.
No problem. Yeah. The main thing is it's the joy of finding the solution. So
okay, yeah, the hardest part is over. Apologies to everyone. Basically, I learned a lesson. Yeah, so you have to click join. I was testing the settings. Yeah, thanks guys. Apologies for the delay. Yeah, on the very left, you have to press join if you. Strange design decision. But probably the problem between monitor and the chair, yeah. So you can hear me all good?
Yes,
yeah.
It's all
yeah.
good.
Thank you for patience.
And we have already our audience with us. We are also doing this live on YouTube. So we had to change the link because I also tried to reboot and figure out the problem. But we are all on now. So first of all, Yono, truly thank you so much for joining our webinar series. Jonas will introduce himself soon, but Jonas works for our partner or company, Ondato, and I think we'll learn more about that too. Ondato has been our partner of our cybersecurity bootcamp, offering a motivational scholarship to the bootcamp participant who finishes the program with the highest final exam score. So we are very grateful for the partnership, and as well, of course, for the opportunity for Ondato to assign their colleagues to share their experience and wisdom with our audience. So thank you to the audience for continuously being with us through our cybersecurity webinars. So I won't drag for much longer. Yono, the floor is yours, and thank you once again for being with us.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so we have, well, probably going to be less than our lecture. If you have any questions, feel free to type in the chat. Yeah, I may not see instantly, but probably like I'll review the questions in the, in the end, and, we can discuss those later on. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to share my screen. So please let me know if you can actually see it. And I wanna, oh, one sec. Yeah, you should see my blue screen. And like I'm going to do a little bit different from the usual PowerPoint notes in here. So I have basically some notes, and we'll be talking about a couple of different topics that we go through. Just want to say that this presentation, these notes are available, and it's in my GitHub repository. So if you want to like see any of the links, I'm just going to paste now in the chat, if I do have the access to the chat. So just give me a second, and I'm still not, yeah, questions chat is over here. So I'm just pasting the link. So later on, if you want to review, find some links, feel free. You can find me anyway, personal questions. So a little bit about me and what am I doing here. By no chance, I'm no cybersecurity expert, and my experience is mainly in programming. As you can see in my LinkedIn, I have quite a few companies in my, well, I can't see my badge, but I think I have almost 9 years, probably more, 9 years experience in many different industries. Mostly IT work, but I worked in education, I work in law, in IT, in medical research, etc. A little bit in anti-money laundering. I'm doing some lecturing as well. I'm currently working with Ondato, and mainly in startups. So I usually specialize in small companies, in startups. And what does it mean to work in small companies? But very often small companies, you have a little bit more chaos and less structure. That means those are more demanding. And what I'll be trying to prove to you today, how important is security, especially in small companies, and cybersecurity, yeah, and how much developers have to know in smaller companies. A little bit about that more. So I also want to say that I did study in University of Edinburgh, and University of Edinburgh, I spent 4 years studying. And why I'm talking about this, not to boast about University of Edinburgh, but I just want to say that I've done computation, I've done object-oriented, algebra, calculus, what else, many different topics. And I'm talking about like vision, robotics, professional issues, etc., etc. But one of the most important topics was actually computer security. You can see that this is 20 credits, and I've been, so a little bit jump to the side, a little bit like I've been doing programming in many different languages. But one particular skill where I wish I knew more is actually this: computer security. I don't, at all these jobs, I never done like lots of calculus. I never done like structures, data science, vision analysis, but most of what have actually been done, I've done is like every day you have to deal with computer security. So the knowledge in computer security or cybersecurity, I'm going to use these words interchangeably, sorry, complex word. So this is one of the, where I say, is kind of my weak areas. I wish I would know more. Yeah, so let's go. And also when I study, not I study, but when I teach programming and mainly teach in .NET. This is in Lithuanian, so it's not really important. I usually say that security is one of the most complex topics when you deal with programming. It's one of those topics where you kind of cannot hack the way. You have to do a lot of reading, and you have to do a lot of research and programming, and you have to do it right. Because if you do not do security right, attackers, they're gonna fix it for you, and exploit the holes. So a little bit about Ondato, the company where I do work for. And what we do is actually the product is kind of complex. It is like KIC compliance product. What does it mean by KIC? So the main aim of the Ondato product is to identify the user behind the laptop or mobile phone, and etc. So what does it mean? That mainly we do identity verification of the person sitting. So that means we do, let me find something nice on this. So mainly we do two things. We verify the face. Yeah, we verify the face behind of the user. And we do quite a bit of like machine learning as well as manual check. As well, we do the document check, etc. So what we could say on that is a little bit like startup / fintech. And yeah, so this is kind of like security product. And this is not only that, we have a couple of more solutions as well, like regarding business, regarding integration with the banks. But the main base is that we can verify that you are what you say you are. Yeah, so it is kind of a security product. What is also to make this a little bit more complex is that we are selling a technology. That means our customers integrate their systems with our product. So it's not like we have some kind of like application where you log in and that means you have the security done. No, they do have to make integrations. Sometimes like we do have provider, of course, like the application, but we have to integrate their programming with our programming. And this makes much more complex because we have information and data going back and forth between their systems and ours. And this does make indeed it more complex. So yeah, so security is kind of big thing in Ondato, and I'm not talking about that we have to adjust because we are working with major like financial institutions and etc. So we have to be compliant with these standards. We have to be compliant like with GDPR. We have to use certified technologies. We do get audits. And we have to prove that we are doing the security right. I'm not even talking that we are taking, picture, well, not pictures, but like we are handling, your camera, faces, documents. So security issue would be, I don't know, it would probably like destruction of the company, so we have to take security seriously. And I still have to keep in mind that we are a startup and we are a constantly growing startup. What I mean by that in Ondato, I think we have almost 200 people, but this means we have a very limited specialist pool. So sometimes I am jealous to Danske Bank or Western Union or I don't know, some NASDAQ, some major employer, because they have way bigger specialist pool. Yeah, they have people who constantly specialize in one area in security. When you are working in startup and fintech, your responsibilities, especially in IT, they do get mixed. Yeah, that means you have to gather requirements, you have to program, you have to do support, etc. And that means the sole, you are responsible for security as well. Of course, everyone is responsible, but that means you are building a technology. That means you have to ensure that technology, that functionality you create, it is secure. What I'm going to talk further, it's not going to be connected just to on data, because there are some things that I cannot disclosure regarding the current. So, but a couple of previous companies, like I've seen, yeah. So, wanna say that regarding cybersecurity, that I also have to be careful what I say here, because, for example, I cannot, I cannot disclose too much regarding where I work. So yeah, so this not only when you have to think when not only you have to think about cybersecurity when you create new functionality, but also you have to watch out what you speak, especially in lectures like this. So yeah, so let me just 1 sec. I'm just going to double check. Yeah, no questions. So what I want to talk today is going to be a little bit complex, but I'll try to keep it as simple as possible, although security is never simple. And yeah, and to show you what in my 9 years, like in programming, I had to deal with. So I'll try to make this a little bit simpler, but like I said, cybersecurity is quite a complex topic. So this is going to be what I call these cybersecurity user cases. That means where I had to deal with the cybersecurity in my career. Mostly I've done backend .NET programming. Those who don't know what does it mean backend, mainly it means front end. We're doing design how it looks. Backend goes to the data and servers. And what I want to prove as well is that security is way more than just coding, authentication, and authorization. And the last thing I'm gonna prove, cybersecurity is pretty hard. And yeah, so lots of reading, research courses is needed. Okay, so first of all, most of the web developers, and I'm going to do a little bit of an intro to programming, and so I'm going to do a little bit of programming and we'll check one case. So what most of the backend programmers create is called an API. Yeah. So what does it mean, an API? Mainly we code 2 types of servers. One of those are what is called web servers. Yeah, and web servers, something like this. For example, if I go to BBC News, yeah, so let's look at this. What we have in BBC News, we have a nicely formatted pages, yeah, which is pleasant to the eye. It has ads, etc., etc. Real nice. And this is a page which, to go into details, it returns what is called the HTML. Yeah, HTML. We can see lots of different gibberish over here and etc. But this is all, this is all data mixed with design, and this is pretty good. Yeah, this is pretty good. We can see it nicely. But when we want to extract the data, for example, if I would like to get all the titles, this becomes way more complex. Yeah, I cannot just jump from this very easily to other title, and if I would just only want to get to the text. So if I want to integrate my system with, let's say, BBC, I would need a better solution. So this is where these APIs, which stands for, actually I forgot myself, what is an API stand for, is application programming interface, if I remember. Yeah, so this sounds very smart. Yeah, but mainly what happens is that we have, sorry, a lot got lost in my, what we have over here, basically just we get not HTML, not design, but we get data. Yeah, and I'm not going to go through all, what is it, what is the REST API, but what you need to think is that you can send data, or you can get data back. And in this case, we are getting the data. So, and we get the data, and we don't really have any formatting in here, just pure data. So this is what an API, and in short, that's what happens. Either you send the data or you get data back. That's it. This is the system integration. Sometimes it's more complex, but usually developers try to make their technologies as simple as possible. Okay, so let's say I wanna, and we're going to do a little bit of programming. Let's say I wanna create an API, and I'm going to do a little bit of programming with you, but it's going to be real simple. And we're just going to create a new project. So what I open here, this is a Visual Studio, which is mainly used for C# programming. So what I'll be creating here, and we're not going into details, but we will be creating an API, and we'll see how it looks. So I'm not entering anything, and I'm just going next. So here we have some files, not really that important here, but we, by default, this is creating like a weather forecast API. So now when we launch the application, this is being launched. This is, we're not going to go into details, but this is what is called a Swagger. And if I copy this URL, and if I go back, I get exactly the same format data. Yeah. So for example, if I hosted this application somewhere in the internet, someone could make these calls and get my forecast, weather forecast information. So pretty nice. So, okay. Yeah, we have now we programmed this weather forecast data. So let's say we want to create an application which sends a message, which sends basically some kind of message to the, I don't know, weather forecast every single day, what the day is going to look like. So if we want to make the message to the phone, we have to find a provider, and one of the most most common providers is Twilio. So what is Twilio? So let's have a look at what Twilio does. It also sells you a technology. For example, if we go to the products, we can see quite a lot of this messaging stuff. And we can go straight to developers. They have really nice documentation, and they give you an example how you can take and start the application. So I could just, for example, take the code from here. This is what is called C# code. Very great documentation. They give you this, and I'll show you where I'm going with this later on. That I could, for example, now paste the code over here. I could install the right clients. Let's do it here. And I need to install Twilio. Let me just, what's happening here, I'm just getting the Twilio package. Those who are familiar with the node or something like this, this is same as NPM. And I'll show you where I'm going. You don't need to understand what I'm doing here. I just want to show you one thing. Okay, so this is installing. Okay, and let's go. And we're just importing the packages, and that's it. We have the application running. So I could enter the next bit. What I would need to do is I would need to enter the secrets for that library, which would be issued. But this means this would send my application. And let's now, if I run this application would work. It would call, it would cause an error when I do my get call, for example, if I do now get call, but let's say I entered the information right and it works. Yeah, now we get authentication error and etc. So that's it. That's all the code we need to send the message. Yeah, I could change something to get that weather forecast. I only would need to change the body, but it would work. But what I mean here, yeah, so I need so very little code to get my API running and working. And I not only have an API, but also are able to send the messages. But when we start, so this is quite simple for now. But when we start to think about these security cases, so let's say I get the token and one of the issues, yeah? So let's start thinking about security here when we have the code. I'm gonna divide my screen in here in half. So when you do programming, yeah, and for example, so let's say I open register now with Twilio and open my screen and paste my authentication token. And I have like almost 20 people like watching this. That means everyone can copy, someone can stop the video, can copy the token, and that's it. He steals my identity. Yeah, so that's one of the issues when you start thinking about security. Other issues, who are familiar with Git technology? Yeah, you guys who know GitHub, for example, this is open. Yeah, like if I go to GitHub, like that this is like versioning the code. If I paste my secret here, that's it. It's visible to everyone, even though you make it a private. Like you don't know who's going to see the code. That means everyone can take your secret and they can steal it. So you can solve it by using what is called like key vaults, etc. But you need to start to think about this. Yeah. For example, another issue would be, yeah. So also you have your API public. You have your API standing over here as open system, but you don't really want to give ability to send it to everyone. So everyone can come to this page. Well, now it's local, but you deploy it to Azure, and yeah, you don't want to be everyone to be able to send. So you need authentication, and also you don't want to allow to send it to everyone. So you need authorization. Yeah. Also, how do you know if, for example, your token is not going to be stolen? So you need to have logging as well. So what I want to, so also you want to track what's been sent. Yeah, you need logs. And also you would like to make a check so that even if you sell a technology, you have to think, what would happen if I give this API to even authenticate user? What would happen if he decides, I'm going to send that message 100 times a second? Yeah, because you can do it by programming. You can write like for loop, and what would happen? So now you see, and what would happen? Yeah, so if 100 times a second, yeah, the user uses your technology, would you allow it? So now you can see with this simple code, like which does a lot, and we don't really have much code here. That's it. Now, if I want to make it secure, I need to code the authentication mechanism. Yeah, I need to do authorization. That means I need to store some of the users. I need a database. I need to start logging. I need to post the logs and etc. I need to make the logic to track that the not too many messages have been sent for that user in particular second. So I want to show you, I just want to display you how much complexity the security gives you. And then even when you write the simple code, you have to think about it. And yeah, and these things happen, the flaws, yeah, you want to know what's happening. So you definitely need logs, you definitely need authentication, definitely need authorization. Even when you code this, you kind of have to think how is it going to integrate to that, especially when you create those public APIs that everyone can use it. So what I wanted to show here, that every time you code something, you have to think about security. So that's it. That's what sorry about this complex code. That's what I wanted to show you. So the next aim, I want to give you an example of system integration that sometimes happens. I don't know, like I can see quite a few Lithuanian names out here. Yeah, so I guess most, well, not most of you, but who have bank accounts, you know, probably are familiar with what is called either like mobile ID or smart ID. Yeah, and smart ID, I don't know where, like smart ID is quite a nice solution, which also what does kind of like two-factor authentication / identity verification. What does it mean? When you log into bank, you enter your identity code or whatever, and you have a smart ID installed in your phone. That means whenever you log in, your smartphone PIN pops in, and you have to enter your PIN. That means it verifies not only that you have a phone, but you are who you are because you know the PIN. So it is kind of like two-factor authentication in one go, which makes it quite a nice and reliable system. I definitely know this is used by Swedbank because I use it myself. So what Smart ID is doing here, it's also selling a technology. And in this case, let's think about this, and quite a few businesses in Lithuania, they want to use this technology. So let's say we would like to integrate the Smart ID into our solution. So what we would need to do then? If I go now, first of all, you would need to find the information, and information how to actually use it. And first of all, when you use the external, system, you have to do a little bit of reading about this. And it's always complex. So if we look at this, we can see that I found here Smart ID documentation. So let's look at this. This is one big document which says how you should use it, etc., etc., etc. Quite a bit of written here. But one bit which actually interests us is the authentication. And let's say I am just, a beginner developer who got a request by, by manager or whatever, it doesn't matter, that says, we want to use Smart ID authentication. Yeah, so you and you got the information, you got the package, etc. So you now start to read the how can I authenticate into that? And this is where the knowledge of cybersecurity really comes into play, because you open this, and I'm going to zoom it a little bit. So first of all, you read this document and you have to understand, okay, so what is man-in-middle attack? Yeah, what is this HTTPS? How it's different from HTTP? Yeah, we can see, and they say that the developer, he has to do these checks. What is this HTTP connection? What is this TLS handshake? What does it mean, security-less cybersuit? And the person who never had any introduction to cybersecurity is not going to know what is this certificate. What does it mean? HTTPS key pinning, yeah, what is a public key? Because if you know public key, you have to know the private. How can I, how can verify that certificate is not expired? How, like signed by trusted CA and not revoked? So, and usually that's a very common case when you do programming and you want to integrate external libraries. So you have to, in order to use something securely, you have to know our libraries really well. So so go back. Not only that, when you look, so Smart ID gives you an example client, but just installing and using is not enough, because you have to configure what's called certificates. Yeah, you have to get the right certificates and store them in the file. So this cybersecurity knowledge it really helps when you do, and yeah. So for example, you can see how you have to understand how does certificate look like, where is expiry date hidden, how do you know that a certificate is definitely issued by who is. So ensuring that how you communicating between the smart ID and your own software, it is quite complex. And if we go, for example, if we talk more regarding the SSL certificates, this is pretty complex, because if you go to the websites and, for example, this is their own website, and if you look at the certificates, you can see that you have root certificates, you have for testing, you can see that you need all this certificate, and you have like big list, and you have to find which ones you need. Yeah, so without the knowledge in cybersecurity, you're probably not going to realize what's happening. So yeah, if we go into, and even more, if we look at the certificates, what does it mean, authority? And certificates, they're not like, it's not like you have one certificate and it's enough. You have what is called certificate chaining. That means for one validation, you're going to get one certificate. For signing, you might have another one. And you never know when certificate might be also revoked. So now, if, for example, if we look at the news over here, okay, if you look at the news, not only when you have, when you use the smart ID, you have to follow the news. For example, you can see that they are using new certificates and etc. So whenever you do system integration and you need to use something, you need to employ something, usually getting it safe, authenticating, configuring certificates, checking the right things is very time consuming. And this is where you wish you would know the theory. Yeah, so that's kind of wanted to show regarding this. So going away from system integration, I want to talk a little bit how cybersecurity for developers happens in large companies. So one of the most important things to understand that when you work in a company, you never have a one application. Well, at least most of the times. For example, I think all of you are using Netflix. Well, not have seen Netflix. Yeah, like you go home, you click on your remote control, open TV, and you can pick your favorite movie, favorite show, etc. Yeah, the process is smooth and it's all good. The thing is, you see Netflix as a single application, but behind the scenes, yeah, the Netflix is actually very, very big. Well, I can't say chaos, but there are like hundreds or maybe more of mini applications behind that. This is a nice video of in YouTube. Like if you want to read, listen a little bit more, it's quite, actually this one is quite interesting, how Netflix was built. Yeah, that they have, but in short, they have lots of small APIs, small systems, which talk to each other and exchange information. Why do they do that? In case one application goes down, not whole service crashes. And that means they can watch which services are mostly used, and they can give more resources, yeah, etc. So yeah, they don't need to scale the whole application. They can do it in small. Also, what does it help? Yeah, so how does like Netflix look like? Yeah, so if you want to register to Netflix, that's one service. If you want to get recommended shows, that's another service. If you want to get statistics, that's third service. If you want to get user information, fourth service, and etc. So every time you have this new functionality, news, I don't know, maybe not new setting, but some kind of new feature, probably you are trying to create these small services, how it works. So if we go further, yeah, and look, how does it look like? So you have loads of these small services. And then what's also a good thing, you can use the same services with your mobile app, with your web page, or with your TV. Yeah, like all different front ends. These are front ends, client apps, but they use the same system API, or I would say those 100 systems. Yeah, and you don't need to code. Thing is, yeah, it's very similar with Google, for example, which is another edge case. When we look, for example, at the Google, and we know that Google has like loads of products. Everyone who use like Google, if I go to Gmail, or maybe let's go to google.lt, and you'll notice that I am already logged on. If I go to Google Maps, you can see that, oh, sorry, I haven't opened that, but where do you, yeah, here it is. It took some time to load, but you can see I'm already here. Same with the Google Drive, same with everything else, yeah? And these are all different applications. They are all different applications, and they are probably hosted in different places. They are coded with different technologies, but we can see that the authentication is the same. So this is kind of like a wish for the like companies as well. They have lots of systems, they have lots of products, but they don't want to spend too much time on authentication, because if every single product is going to have the authentication, the updating one single thing is going to take a very long time. Yeah. So what I want to show here, that having one product is often an illusion. It's usually distributed between many different services, but the aim for those services that they should use one authentication provider. And most of the time what is being used is what is called an OAuth 2. And this is an industry protocol, but most of the companies are actually using this protocol. So if we look at this, and most of the time when you create a new service, you have to make your application to interact, what is called this framework. And we're not going into detail what this is, but this is complex. Yeah, so look, what I mean here, we have to do a little bit of reading about what is this authorization code, what is this proof key for code exchange, because do I need a refresh token? Why are these already legacies, and etc. So whenever you create, like, for example, you work in a company that's using the standard, and most of the time I've seen almost every single company does indeed use this, and you create something new, you have to integrate it with current security model. And that's when you need to think, okay, so which grant type I need to use? Can I use client credentials? Can I start? And this is, this is very complex, and I actually spend many hours reading about that. If we go to C# implementation, yeah, we call very often what is being used in here is called identity server. And identity server is kind of an implementation, but is even more complex about that. So you have to understand what is cryptography, what is reference token, refresh token, persistent grant, mutual TLS, authorized risk class object. So what I mean, the better developer the more senior you become, the more cybersecurity knowledge you need to know. And I'm not even talking when you need to integrate like Facebook or Google login. Yeah, that means you have to use OAuth 2, And once again, if you don't know the theory, you have to do lots of required reading. Yeah, so very complex topics. Sorry about that, but what I want to prove, show you that this is complex. Yeah, so let's talk about like a little bit like smaller cases, yeah, of security that I've seen in my industry. So once again, especially in small companies, you don't really have anyone to take care. Well, very often you don't have to take care of every single aspect. So sometimes you have to know, like you have to take things care of yourself. Yeah. So for example, you have to ensure that in your laptop, the data is encrypted. And sometimes you have to think, oh, sorry, I haven't introduced. So what I wanted also to say to you that as a developer, very often I have this dilemma between features, functionality, which is required by the, I don't know, by the customers, etc., and the security. So sometimes I have to think, yeah, do I want to? Well, you should always have laptop drives encrypted, yeah, by file, but also you can encrypt data in database. But when you encrypt data with database, you have to know how to encrypt it, you have to learn it, and also it does create challenges in your database. Also, you have to think what can be installed on my laptop. Yeah, can I install that software? That's usual package, so that's useful package, but is it safe? Yeah, the company is expanding. Yeah, what accesses can be granted? You have to think about that. What happens when employee leaves? I've seen many different, like horror stories where disgruntled employee leaves the company, changes passwords, etc. You have to be defended with that. When you create new functionality, yeah, page, whatever, is it compliant with GDPR? Are you are you taking users' data with their consent, etc.? Can you store data locally? You should avoid that, yeah, because if your laptop gets stolen, if you leave it unopened, someone I don't know, just send by the email, Also, oh, this is very interesting, yeah, like if you remember the CTB case, how to store passwords if the database is being leaked. Yeah, so how do you guys store so that probably you guys that now you cannot just copy plain passwords. Yeah, you have to hash them, but that's not enough because CTB had the passwords hashed and some were leaked. Yeah, what about the files, documents, law sensitive, etc.? Where do I store them? Who do you give access? Yeah, and regarding how much information I can keep in code. Yeah, what about if someone is attacking them? Me, I would like to know. Yeah, I have to make sure that when I have forms, etc., that I'm not allowed to input the code. I'm not going to talk about SQL injection, but that is dangerous as well. Quite a few attacks are done through browser. When you upload files, how do I know the files are not uploaded like 2 gigabytes and etc.? I'm not even talking about email and cryptoware. I'm going to expand this later on, but yeah, is my company checked by ethical hacking? Maybe I leave a couple okay, sorry, I'll stop for a bit. Just basically what I mean by ethical hacking. Yeah, at least in Britain, it's quite popular practice. Maybe it's required by law, I'm not too sure. But you hire an ethical hacker, which scan, and you give some access to your systems, and they do scan and check for vulnerabilities. And then they create a report. Very useful practice because you give someone a third party to scan, and they don't do any harm. You write some agreements, but they give you a report where the weak spots are, and you're given the chance to curb those. Regarding the cryptoware, I'm going to talk that later on, but social engineering is also very powerful attack. Most of it, like in my industry, what I've seen, sometimes, people are using weak passwords. People are using very commonly used passwords, and they are reusing passwords between applications. And this is actually the most common flaw or like security leak is actually social engineering. Someone phones, calls, goes and I don't know, borrows someone's card. And yeah, so that's maybe it's not cybersecurity, but it's very powerful security attack. And the last bit I want to talk today is regarding what like the unpleasant part, what happens when when the security is a little bit too late. So I think if you like most of like my Lithuanian listeners, yeah, they kind of probably know what like the CTB. What happened here is that quite a few accounts were leaked when CTB in this CTB incident. And if I remember correctly, what actually happened there is this is an Azure blob. So someone just left a database backup and encrypted in a public directory. So it was and Azure blob is just a file storage. A file storage like Google Drive or OneDrive, Microsoft. But they left that blob storage public. And someone, I don't know, maybe someone did not know it was public, just pasted. There were some bots which scanned and notice that the file has .back, which means not this, but this means it's a backup, and usually backup of a database. So when you see like .back, that means basically that means you notice something valuable. Yeah, so and completely different story with the passwords over there, but they were hashing the passwords, but those passwords were vulnerable to dictionary attack. Not going to go into details, but some of those passwords were hacked. Another one I want to talk about is what recently that regarding Heroku incidents, that sometimes these security incidents, they actually get quite a lot of press attention. And in this case, if we look at the what I have here, Heroku incident, that not only one company was touched, but the collaborating company as well. So for example, here Heroku got attacked and lots of sensitive data was leaked. So GitHub was affected, Heroku was affected, Travis was affected, and I think Salesforce was affected as well. So so usually when you get these issues, basically you wish you cared about security. So the last bit I want to show you, what I've seen is a little bit talked about cryptoware attacks. These ones are actually surprisingly big issue and common in my industry. I've seen it twice. So what is this ransomware? Actually, what happens? Someone opens an email, clicks on a file, a ransomware is installed. And what does it mean? It very slowly goes to every single server and encrypts the files. And the files become unusable. And usually when you find it, it's too late. And they actually send you, I don't know, an email or they install a program how to connect with them. And they ask for a ransom. Completely automated. Yeah, so someone clicks, files get like documents, everything gets encrypted. And the funny thing is that this software is this ransomware sometimes is so sophisticated that antiviruses, they do not catch those. And what I've seen also, they give you a trial service. They install a program where you can, for free, decrypt one file. Yeah, so that you could see, okay, you are able to decrypt it. You are able, if you pay us, you will decrypt. And even better, and they usually ask you to pay with Bitcoin or any other crypto currency. And if you don't know how to pay with the cryptocurrency, they even had support line. So this industry is very powerful. And if we look at this, like these attacks, ransomware attacks, are very common. And like I said, in my career time, I've seen at least twice. Most of the time, you cannot decrypt those files. You don't want to pay ransom. So the best solution for this is actually getting just getting the backup files and completely scanning and removing any installers, which then becomes an investigation. So what I wanted to show you with this presentation, and apologies, for like was quite complex presentation, is that the cybersecurity knowledge for developers is kind of essential, especially when you create something public, when you create technology that will be used to go with other technologies. You have to know what you expose. You have to know how to protect it, how to authenticate it, how do certificates work. Whenever you create new endpoint, you have to think how it's going to be exposed. Will I know if it's going to be exposed? How can I ensure that its usage is trackable? And this makes the authentic, this makes it much more complex, and very often you have to make a compromise between feature and security. So I think that was about it I want to show. If you want, the link, is available in GitHub with some URLs. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm going to answer those.
Right. Well, thank you for such a practical and in-depth and quite complicated presentation, as you say, but I'm sure that those who are interested in the field truly found what they were looking for, because I mean, the title of your webinar was at once suggesting that you will be sharing the cybersecurity practices in the web developer's life. And thank you for doing that in such a full scale. So just my encouragement would be also for those who are still with us to be, are there any questions, anything that you would like to ask, to clarify? There was a question about whether the recording of the presentation will be available, and I did confirm that it will be. Like all our cybersecurity webinars are posted on LCC International University's Facebook, YouTube page, so you can find them there, because I'm sure like there is a lot to rewatch and ask. But here there is a question, and you can see that, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, actually, Gabi asked a very good question, and I do want to talk a little bit. Like I thought about mentioning that. That's a good question. So I'm going to share my screen once again a little bit, and so I'm going to talk about it. So what happened? So usually, I'm not sharing. Now I'm sharing. Good.
Maybe let's just read the question out loud so that the audience
good.
knows.
Yeah. So what Gabi asks, and let me find the chat. So Gabi asks, so when CTB passwords were stolen, they were hashed, but was it possible to unhash them? And the thing is, what means a hash? So hash function is a cryptographic function, which is one-way function. Yes. So for example, we have a password over here. I am sharing. I just want to double check. And that means from that hash, we are getting some kind of like nonsensical string. So that means it is possible that two strings can be the same one. So important thing to understand, this is one-way function. So you can get from Fox to this, but you cannot decrypt the hash. So it is impossible. So they did not unhash them. But what they done? So hash attacks are done. So the biggest CTB leaked passwords was the comment is that they did not use what is called salt. and let's find some information. So what we will see here is that, did not find. So what happened? Yeah, some of the CTB users, they used simple passwords. They use simple passwords. And when you use simple passwords, for example, maybe they used password like, I don't know, password like this. And what this means, then you can use what is called dictionary attack. Yeah, what is a dictionary attack in this case? And I'll try to find a better image here, is you can download, yeah, you can download a very big list of, because you know the, you probably know the algorithm of hashing, because there are quite, there are not that many. And what you can do, you can download a big dictionary of names and their hash values. And you can compare. Yeah, you can compare. So for example, yeah, let's say I'm going to do like a hash function online. And hash function online, I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so here we have, this is one of the hash functions. And here I'm going to enter password. Yeah, so I'm getting, when I'm using, I'm getting this password. So if I now do this, decrypt hash password online, and for example, if I use this, the same algorithm, and if I paste my hash and I do the code, this will take a second, but probably this will try to attack it using dictionary attack, and it will be able to decode this. One sec, and look at this password. Yeah, how did it done that? Because this is a very common value. So they have like millions. But if I do something like this, let's say I enter password Gabia, yeah, and I do 22 and dot in the end. So now if I do the very same thing, and let's, I don't know, this is quite, I don't know. If I now try to decode this, okay, I don't want to copy this. Okay, this remembered. Reverse decryption. Okay, so now if I copy that hash string, yeah, which is from this way more complex password, and if I now do the code, it's not going to be able, yeah, because that word is way more complex. So that's why you should use some kind of combinations, very complex. Look at this, it didn't work, yeah. But if I use some simple words, no, I don't know, no numbers, no letters, you can guess by doing these dictionary attacks. So sorry, a long answer, but that is actually a very interesting topic.
Archie from Gabia. Archie Gabia, thank you for the question. We still have a few minutes in case anybody else has an urging desire to ask the questions. We have an expert who can share exactly from the practical field, and it's the tools that are out there that we don't even know about, that could be put to use, and that it's important to know. Well, as I mentioned, the recording will be available, so that's where people can continue learning about Ondato and the work of where cybersecurity practice is important in the web developer's life and in many other instances. So I guess the common knowledge is useful for everyone, and then the much more in-depth knowledge is crucial for those who are choosing the cybersecurity career path. So for anyone who is interested to be upgrading, to be starting the cybersecurity career, I would encourage to look up LCC International University's Cybersecurity Bootcamp. It's an intensive 6-month part-time program that leads people straight to the employment possibilities. And for continuing to learn more about from the professionals who work in the field of cybersecurity, you can rewatch all of the webinars that have been done by our partners, including this one done by Jonas, who works with Ondato on LCC International University's YouTube page. Thank you so much to everyone for being with us. Thank you to Alexei for the comments about this being a structured and informative webinar for such a big topic. Exactly, cybersecurity is a huge topic and there are lots of things that can be discussed. Continue watching LCC's Facebook page for upcoming webinars. We will be continuing to do this and inviting guest speakers, and there are many more resources out there. So continue learning, continue discovering. Thank you, Yono, for your time, for your enthusiasm. It's been amazing throughout the whole presentation to hear your passion in how you are explaining this. Like, this is where we can feel that this is what you are living in, and that's the drive of your life. So thank you for sharing that passion and your knowledge with us. And thank you for Ondato for sponsoring this webinar and for providing you as the guest speaker. So bye for now, and I wish everyone a nice Thursday evening, and until future webinars where we meet again.